So, first question is, why are we all here today? And I will answer that. Last August 6, the President signed into law the bill that will establish the national ID system in the country called the Philippine Identification System, or PhilSys. There have been several attempts in the past administrations to implement a national ID, from four presidents in fact. Matagal na pala to. Starting with the Marcos administration in 1973 up until the Arroyo administration. But due to controversies and oppositions, the national ID never lifted off and only came into fruition this year. Today, we have invited these experts in their respective fields to shed some light into this law and learn what finally allowed this to be successfully signed into law. So, I'm just going to show here a slide on what information is covered by the national ID system. So, contains the demographic data, full name, sex, date of birth, etc. And also the biometric data. For those who cannot read it, it contains a photo, full set of fingerprints, iris scan, and other identifiable features. The card itself, the ID itself, will contain this information. A unique Philippine system number, your full name, your blood type, your marital status, optional. Sir, pwede ba ito i-integrate with Facebook kung the status? Pwede. It's complicated. Pwede. Date of birth, place of birth, the complete address, and a front-facing photo. So those will be the information displayed on the ID itself. All right. For my first question to the panel, will be directed to Assistant Secretary Cabano. Sir, why do we need a national ID in the first place?
Okay, that's very simple, of course. The Philippines has passed the ease of doing business law. And in order to comply with the ease of doing business, we need something that we can use as a citizen to transact business online, right? So that's why we also need an ID system that's supposed to be we can transact business. But that's the objective, I believe, na nag-usapan before. And then when the law came, when the law was signed, nakita namin that the ID contains information like the QR code, like the address, place of birth.
Mm-hmm.
However, we suggested na sana you can just put the photo, the birth date, and the name. And after that, we can use the smart chip as the ID.
That was a suggestion.
Yes, we can tap the bank, for example, because the bank are also issuing cards.
Mm-hmm.
So thereby the government can save money, save costs on the printing of the ID. So during the technical work meeting, I tasked my director to give suggestion to the PSA with regard to that. Of course, there are some recommendations as well from the PSA that this is a law now, and we should abide with it. So yun yung mga pinag-uusapan namin pagdating dyan. But anyway, back to your question, the purpose of the national ID is, of course, is to have a national identity as a Philippine.
Okay. Anyone else want to add to that? Yes, Paul.
Okay, so a bit of a context. I'm also part of the technical working group under the ICT, which serves as the technical consultation arm for the PSA. So, for my understanding, one of the chief goals of the national ID system is to solve the problem that there isn't a single common way for all government agencies to identify a Filipino. So you have your LTO number here, you have your passport number here. What is there that ties all that information together? I apply to LTO, I have a Paul Prantilla in LTO. If I apply DFA, I have a Paul Prantilla in DFA. There's no inherent system right now that ties that all up together. So you want to homogenize all of that, put that into one, but that is secondary for the first goal, which I believe is to really have one single way to make sure that you are who you are. After you could really say you are who you are, you need that one way to be used consistently across the government agencies. I don't want to repeat my sign up information for everyone else. The next thing is, it's the stepping stone for the modern era where you want to transact online. You want to do your government services online. So if you're familiar with, for those here who work in large companies, you have the concept of federation of identities. An identity right now is rarely tied up to one company. So if you guys are familiar with OAuth, OpenID, OpenID Connect, so these are ways to federate identity information into one so that it would be easy for services to refer to that single identity. So that's the far end vision. But overall, right now, the goal is really to have a facility that makes sure you are who you are and have that used consistently by different government agencies. Right.
Yes. So my understanding is this will replace your social security, your voter ID, your driver's license? No? But the redundance of the social security, the voter's ID, your school ID, all these other IDs that cost money will no longer be needed. And this one ID will be used when you vote?
You still have to have those individual ID numbers per agency, but at least you want to have that primary key to tie them up, to make them relate to each other, or have at least a common way for agencies to say you are who you are.
So the new ID validates your identity.
Right.
But the average Filipino is still required to have these 600 IDs?
Yeah, for the agency itself. Yeah. It's just that for this ID, you want to, this is the one ID where you want to present sufficient proof that this is actually you by presenting your birth certificate, by taking biometric data. So yeah, that's for a start.
Jumping to Bill's question, why don't we use the common ID for the other government agencies? What's the difference?
Actually, we have passport. We cannot use national ID as a passport. We cannot use national ID as a license. For example, you're an engineer, you're a doctor. You can use your national ID as your driver's license. That's a different I think feature the kind of ID. So the national ID will cater to those services of the government that you can transact, like for example SSS, like for example GSIS, that you feel health. So yep. So these are the agencies that Thomas should follow.
Multiple IDs, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saying that the national ID cannot be used as your driver's license, as your license, as your UPR's license, so your passport. I went to countries like Germany, Europe, and Estonia. They have one national ID. However, it can be used as passport to other countries. So they still have their own passport. So yeah, that's how the national ID in the Philippines is also.
I'd just like to add to that.
Yes,
Yes, the current transaction in the Philippine setting is whenever you avail any government service or any private services, you have to at least submit to identification. So upon the enactment of the PhilSys law, it hopes to eliminate that. You just need to present your PSN or your PhilSys ID when you're availing services.
All right. My RJ.
Especially in the banks right now, that it will with one ID, it will be something with the KYC. For us, for you, to transact just like right now, for you to have an account, will be needing multiple IDs to open an account. But with the national ID, with one ID will do them all. Will be sufficient with that.
For those who don't know what KYC is, know your customer. KYC, the banking sector. All right. My next, this begs an obvious question, obviously. How will the national ID impact the privacy of citizens? And I'd like to direct this question to NBC. Kelvin?
Uh, the PhilSys law aims be to provide a valid proof of identity for the individuals such as Filipino citizens and resident aliens. So establishing that identity through submitting or registering their demographic information as you showed earlier, and as well as their biometric information. So the law also aims to give those individuals or citizens PhilSys number or PSN, which they can use to have a seamless delivery in services as well as ease of doing business. So having said that, the PhilSys has a great potential for the convenience of the citizens in terms of transacting with the government or private entities such as Sir mentioned, KYC purposes. But as any other tools, if the PhilSys or PhilID has been misused, it could result or it may result to violations of rights to privacy as well as anonymity.
Okay, so you're saying, Kelvin, that the trade-off for using national IDs is we need to give up some rights to privacy?
No. Yeah, exactly that. I mean, if the PhilSys, or for example, the PhilSys requires the biometric information. So if whenever that information is compromised, it does not apply to some sort of, for example, your password is compromised or your PIN is compromised. You could just reissue it. For biometric information, once it's been compromised, it's very difficult to save it or to amend it.
So you can change your tongue.
Those are one of the privacy matters. If not taken into consideration, the PhilSys operationalizing process will be a difficult matter for the data subjects or individuals.
Good word. Yeah, I'm just going to comment. From my understanding, a majority of this data is already being collected by these other IDs and by other mechanisms. So the probability that they're already out there or your privacy is already compromised for the majority not to do stuff. So it's not really that much more of a risk than it was before. Carefully the biometrics are one, but the other stuff is already out there. Or can be. Or you put it out there on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So just to add from that, if you just look at the national ID itself and the data that's stored there, there's not much difference between that and the data that's already been collected by the LTO or the DFA. The difference that I can see is that if you recall how I explained the vision moving forward, if you use identity federation using SAML, OpenAuth, or OpenID Connect, you want to make a virtual identity with federated attributes from different government agencies, and that would define me as Paul Quintilia. Maybe that's the new part. But the controls that protect my privacy in that situation are just the same as they are right now for the individual agencies you see here. So yeah, I would agree. There's not exactly that much difference between the risk we already have.
All right. I'd like to direct this next question to you, Paul. How does the government plan to secure that national ID system in terms of data privacy and ID integrity?
Okay, so for the authentication part as well, the protocols are already there. They are already defined. You used to have OAuth for authorization. You used to have OpenID for authentication. Right now, OAuth 2 is usually used. It kind of combines the two together because it can get a bit complicated because OAuth 2 has a profile called OpenID Connect, which is not really OpenID. It's like a profile for OAuth 2. Well, what all that means is that there is a secure way to federate identity, authentication, authorization. So the protocol is there. As for the information that is stored inside the infrastructure, you have your CIC, CSC, critical security controls. So again, that's all. Those are all defined. The challenge, however, is getting the people to operationalize it and really maintain it, because the tendency for the government is that given this X amount of budget, I'll spend X minus 2% on technology, and the remaining will be spent on people. So that's usually the trend that happens. So what I'm trying to emphasize is that, no, for security, the most important things have to be the people. The technology comes next. And you don't have to define anything new. The protocols are there. The best practices are already there. We just have to follow it. Just want to note to you guys, they aren't exactly detailed in the current IRR. The IRR is general enough so that it won't be accused of trying to favor one specific solution over the other. But the bottom line is that it does require that the authentication part be secure and the storage part be secure.
Okay.
We'll have a better understanding once the exact procedure is there.
Yes.
That's our job to make sure that it passes all best practices.
When will that be released?
For me, I don't know. It's been a while since I.
Okay.
Currently, for the IRR, it's being in public consultation for this week. And once it's finalized, the procedures that Sir have mentioned will be kasunod na nito whenever it is finalized. Those there are different agencies also that needs to look into this, because the PhilSys registration process involves different agencies as registration centers to cover most of the Filipino citizens.
Okay. My next question is directed to Bill. Yep. What do you think are the security risks? And as a hacker, what do you think is the lowest hanging vulnerability fruit, and how would you effectively exploit it, if ever?
Sure. So, just so you know, I live in the Philippines, and I've been here a long time. My wife's Filipino, so my opinion is also based on my experience with us in the fact of living here. But before I answer the question, I want to ask, how many people here have a driver's license receipt only dahil wala na available? Diba? How many people have a motor wala na plate because wala na available? Okay, so you asked me, part of my problem is, if you're only issuing receipts and you're not issuing ID cards, the easiest thing to counterfeit fake is a receipt, diba? I don't need a plastic card printer, I don't need to hack your ID, I can just make a receipt and tell them this is me. Now, if you're not going to authorize the receipt, and you have to wait till available, then your card is not going to be a good success. So my biggest fear, first of all, is the implementation by the Philippine government to actually not get caught up in corruption, wasting money, lost causes, but to actually produce a valid card that the average Filipino can afford, receive, and get within a relatively okay amount of time. Right? Right? So, now, iPad card printers, I can print cards. Everybody's seeing forged Face ID, voter. They're going to counterfeit the cards. That's all their low-hanging fruit. They're going to program the chips. That's low-hanging fruit. The data collection, it's already collected. All this stuff is already stored on another database by either Loki, SSA, Health, something. The data is already out there. If you guys share it appropriately and correctly, it's fine. But I'm not concerned with the privacy of this data. I've seen this data. This is normal data to work in today's future, okay? And to take the Philippines farther, I see the data itself is, yes, it's private data. It's optional, but it's data that will help you move forward as a whole, in my personal opinion. I'm just not positive that the Philippine government can implement it without an issue.
Noted. Thanks, guys. All right. Anyone else want to add to that? No. Or sir? Well, I'd like to open the floor to the audience. Do you have any questions? Come on, don't be shy. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Mark. I have two questions. First is, how many shirts do we get? First is the storage. We already have the information where where will it be located? The storage will be the company who would handle it. So there were news that it will be the Chinese or a Chinese company. Well, I'm not sure yet, so we're still putting information. Second is, in the event of a breach, can we sue the government?
Okay, so I think the question is clear. Who will answer for the first 10 seconds?
Okay, basically the storage by schools, it's in the Philippines. It should be the Philippines. It could be anywhere in the Philippines. Regarding the company, wala pa huli na yes, the TOR set to be released. So the specs is to be released. So, well, with regard to the second question, I believe is who can sue? You can sue the government. Okay. In the current draft of the Constitution, yes, but it's not yet. So I think, yeah, soon. Let's cross the bridge.
I'd just like to add to that. If ever there's a breach, subject to the investigation, and the findings specify that there's a negligence the part of the implementing body, yes, it could result to a criminal charge in terms of the implementing body.
So,
Yes.
so when there's a breach, because that's what we do, right? I think personally, you're not harmed unless your data is used in a bad way that somebody else hasn't remedied you for it and compensated you in a good way. So being angry and wanting to sue because there was a breach, well then every company, Amazon, Google, Facebook, are you going to sue them also? I don't know. But the way the government handles a breach is important. So because when there's a breach, and there will be, and I'm hoping that they're planning for the breach, that they take care of that, and that as citizens, you guys acknowledge your response to take care of it and try to protect your data as best that they can. That's my point of view.
Let me add into that. According to Bill, when there is a breach, perhaps I believe that right now, with the advent of cyber resiliency, the people right now in the industry already preparing for that, for them to prepare, to withstand, to evolve, and to recover from a breach. I think they're prepared right now. That's at least it's just the preparation of the industry.
Okay.
Yeah, one last. Yeah, I think the issue with most organizations isn't already when a breach will happen, because we kind of have to assume that the breaches will always happen. I think the problem arises if we were negligent in preparing for responding to it, or we were negligent into the reasons that allowed for the breach to happen in the first place. Though that's gross negligence, that's a better ground, I think, for an individual or company to be sued. But then again, unfortunately, the thing is, the government needs all help it can get. There are so many talented Filipinos IT staff here. The reason why it's just hard for the government to get them is that, hey, I've seen calibers with bigger salaries than IT people in the government. I mean, it's that bad. So the people who do stay there with skills, they're real heroes, in my opinion. So it's up to us here in this room who has the skills to help out as well. I mean, that's been the motto of me and my colleagues so far. I mean, even if we're in a private company, even if we're here, if you have the ability to help out, you have to help out, because then again, who else will? It's our country after all, right? So, yeah.
Actually, yes, the Paul is right. Salary of the government compared to the private sector insecurity is very low. Basically the analyst right is 80,000 US dollar per year that the government will receive maybe 30% of that. So mostly nawawala po yung mga galing sa government. Kami na lang po natitira ng archives sa government. Nagsaserve sa government with a ano yun nasasabi. But
Sir, sorry, malaki po talaga sweldo ni Archie. Malaki po.
our motivation siguro with working with the government is really to make legacy, to do our advocacy. Kasi if you work for the government, then your feeling is to earn money from the government. Then malaki po yun. Okay? So I've been in the government 14 years, 15 years. I started with the police force, and then I transferred to the DSCT. So they asked me why did I join the police force. Of course, I'm an engineer. I'm a CM engineer. I told them I want to help the police force in making the police force IT legal, so that we can suppress and prevent crimes. And now we're here. We're also helping all law enforcement authorities, not just the police force, also the armed forces, with regard to cybersecurity and cyber defense systems. So yun mo yung ginagawa namin sa government. Kaya ngayon yung iba, they apply for consultants kasi medyo mataas yung bayad ng consultants. Okay? So that's the different perspective of working. It's not just about money. It's about fulfillment. Okay?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
While he's walking up, I'll notice this is the biggest crowd so far. Everyone here is very interested in this topic, you know.
Yes.
Actually, I'm Omar, IT practitioner. I just want to know, well, because national ID system, in the future, we have know your customer, KYC. And my question is, if I'm a client or I'm the subject, can I know my audience in the future? For example, I ask the government who's looking at my data, can you give me the logs of people and agencies accessing my information?
So from an outside, you're asking, I have this data and you're selling it to your partners. Can I ask how many times and to whom have you traded and sold my data to?
I think the NPC is better equipped to answer that.
Currently, po, based on the law, there is a record history wherein the PSA has the logs of all your transaction whenever you use your Philsys ID. So, in concept, yes, you can request for that record history. And it's just about operationalizing it and making a portal when to request it. It's one of your rights as to the data subject, as a data subject, right to access of your personal information.
Yeah, yes, Paul. The IRR says that it does store the record transactions. I need to clarify that a bit though, because from my understanding, I could be wrong, but this is my understanding. Those transactions, so to speak, are the authentication transactions, which are probably going to be OpenID Connect. So the visibility the person has is not exactly your activities with the ID, but more like authentication. The PhilSys will be your IDP, so that's the term. It's like capital I, small d, big P, your identity provider. The relying partners or services that want to delegate authentication to PhilSys are called SP, service providers. There's a way, depending on the IAM is like the technical platform implementing an IDP. There's a way to make sure which SPs are allowed to delegate PhilSys authentication attempts. So you could say, okay, only government people can do that. We don't want to open that up to the public. And when government people do that, government agencies do that, we're going to record that. Recording is important not just for your KYC, but also for security purposes as well. You want to audit all those attempts. You want to see if there are a lot of failed attempts. People in the SOC business here will really get that.
All right. Yes? Sorry. Last question. Yes, sir. You tell me your question so that they know.
I have a question. What awaits independent security researchers who will engage in potential research for vulnerabilities for the system? Malamig na bakal ba o incentive? Because there's criminalization of, vulnerable to disclosure here. Researchers are afraid. I don't know. I have no prior information about what happened with Commonwealth, but I suppose that hacker or this security professional that was apprehended, which is, I don't know, like in a hacker community, probably you can have.
Yeah, wonderful question. Anyways, the Cybersecurity Bureau has, we have a bug bounty program in university. But the framework has yet to be finalized. We're settling it in our office. But we need to learn also from the US case, wherein some of the bug hunters did differently. Right? So, the European cities interest. I think we need to talk and look at the US so we'll be talking about that as well, the bug bounty program. I know that I can disclose everything that we do, but it's in the National Cybersecurity Plan. If you read that plan, then at least you can have a high-level understanding of what we're doing in the Philippines. With regard to the nitty-gritty of the plan, executive session could be, I think it would be allowed in a small meeting basis. But for the bug bounty program, we'll be launching that next year, maybe middle of the year, once most of the systems in the Philippines are okay. So that's what we need. Your help here at ROOTCON. This is the first time to attend ROOTCON. And thank you to the organizers for inviting me. napagaling. Okay? Rest assured that the Office Cybersecurity Bureau and enabling colleges will support this conference as soon as I hear this course. Thanks.
So to address the question, from what I hear as an outsider, you're going to initiate eventually a bug bounty program. So a registered researcher that registers with the program and discloses vulnerabilities in a secure way to the provider to fix them, well, not a problem. That's an OM plus order and money. So if someone just breaks it and then posts on Facebook all the data, criminal offense. So I think that's what they're trying to say is they're at least offering a bug bounty program. And I think that's a great thing.
Just want to add to that as well. It's not just the fail-sys that could be a target of a bug bounty program. One potential weakness here is, I mentioned a while ago, the SPs. How do the SPs integrate with OpenID Connect of fail-sys? It could be LTO that has a problem and they integrate to that authentication process. Maybe they are exchanging attributes that should not be exchanged or given. So, and then the website of the agencies themselves that use OpenID for authentication, that has to be checked too. So it's not necessarily the fail-sys that should be open to bug bounties, but the overall ecosystem as well, at least in my opinion.
Did it answer your question?
Who will the vulnerabilities be reported? So my CERT team, fail-sys?
We have a national CERT, the national CERT-DH. So those will only reports officers. If ever this program will be implemented, it will be implemented.
Right.
Alright? Okay, the DSCP is only 2 years. Okay, so within the DSCP, we have the cybersecurity review, which we established. And apart from that, we have the cybercrime investigation and coordination center, not that past agencies, together with privacy commission and national telecom commission. So lahat po ng agency na po sa DSCP bago, except National Telecommunications Commission, NTC. So yun ang grandfather ng DSCP. So the bureau is headed by my director. So I'm overseeing the bureau and EV technologies as well as cybercrime. So yeah, so you can report that to us. We have the national cert active now. Actually, we are procuring the national cyber intelligence platform. As a bidding process, kailangan gobyerno eh. Mag-bid. Kaya sometimes Patrick, but anyway, ganito rin yung proseso. We need to check and balance. It's a procurement. That's why I hope that this project will be implemented as soon as possible and ma-realize natin yung programs.
Alright. Okay, sorry, there are still a lot more questions. So we got 3 more speakers. Yeah, Johnny, wala talaga. Okay, do they have any avenues, sir, if they have questions pa, like in the crowd? So you can approach them individually later. Is it okay? You want to entertain one more?
Last one.
Okay, last one. Yes, the guy that we. Sure.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm just pulling the questions of making. So, sige. I have 3 questions. How will the authenticity of the ID be validated, and what are the security features that will be put in place? Number 2, how do you ensure the readiness of the agencies in adopting this in terms of strategy, especially in contrast to the UMID implementation? What will be done differently in terms of coordination with the different agencies? And third, the ID is a control being implemented. The more important question, especially given the timeline, is how ready are the agencies with the processes to ensure a quicker turnaround of government transactions, especially when compared to the as-is processes?
talaga three questions now. Maybe perhaps those questions we can take offline.
Can we just have one? Can you choose which one you want to ask? Sorry, but we were run out of time.
Dahil InfoSec and data privacy, let's get one. The first one, the security measures.
What will be the security measures to be implemented? On the card itself? Okay. Paul?
On the card itself. Again, the IRR rules have not defined yet what will be the actual authentication protocol. Although, if I'm still going to be part of the technical working group, I have already some recommendations in mind, and I'm sure it's pretty much standard. The card part, though, if you read the IRR, there are some clauses there where I still want to ask some questions about. Like, for example, it says that biodata will be stored in the QR code. Okay, that by itself, you see, fingerprints, they typically consume 4 kilobytes. QR codes, I think I could be wrong, but the biggest I've seen in implementation is around 1 kilobyte, and I think that's used by Japan. Japan uses kanji characters and so forth. So I'm not sure how viable that part could be, but on the authentication itself for the agencies, my take is that the vision I kind of shared with you, where all of those agency data will be federated under that single PSN, and so that you could use your PSN for any of those government agency services. I think that's going to take a while. That's not going to happen anytime soon. The basic part is you're able to, if you go to LTO, you go to this agency, if you give your PSN and they scan your card, or if they have the card or they scan your data, they can at least authenticate there via online or offline. So that's a much simpler use case. And that's easier to control because ideally you don't have a public website to really manage, open to the public. And the problem with the public website is that you can't really apply your biometric scanning when you're logging into the web from your home. So that part's going to come later. So, and again, the IRRs is not completed, but at least I think that's the best answer I can give right now. The scope is on the office itself, or I think there are official centers for that, where you could really, it will be easier to enforce security as compared to a public website.
Sorry. Thank you, Paul.
Sufficient.
I was supposed to ask each one of you one last question to wrap it up, but since we ran out of time, I just want to summarize in a way that it's a call for assistance. Essentially, the national ID will happen. Wala tayong choice doon. Mangyayari talaga yan this year or the next. As fellow hackers, I think just like what Boss Mon Liboro mentioned earlier, let's be Hakbayanis. Let's help secure yung national ID system and be responsible in our disclosures with the vulnerabilities, if ever. Okay? And with that, I thank our panelists for today. Let's give them a warm applause. Thank you, guys.